The 2020 Honda CB300 is not a hyper-naked or sports bike either. It's a combination of what modern world wants. It's got comfort, it's got rider-friendly ergonomics, with unique style and Honda reliability in mind. Is this the best beginner's bike, or maybe it's a good commuter? And why did they put this giant exhaust here on this smaller bike? Let's find out what this 2020 Honda CB300 is all about, shall we? But before we begin, every single week we deliver the newest and coolest motorcycles, cars, parts, gear, a lot of stuff. We don't even ask you to buy the merch. Help our channel to grow and support the independent review movement. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and watch the newest videos every single week. And now let's go back to the 2020 Honda CB300. My name is Dennis, this is For Life Test Drive, shall we?
Alright, before we're gonna go anywhere, let's talk about gas. You need gas. You put only 91 octane in this bike just simply because it's a low cc and you want to get every single horsepower. Even a quarter of horsepower will mean a world for this bike. So let's get some gas.
I have about half a tank right now. Let's see how much gas I can get in it. That's more than I need. Yeah, 1.3 gallon. Alright. Let's see the dash. You know exactly, I have a full tank right now. It's 753 miles on the clock. So let's see if I'm riding on freeways, how long I can go on this one tank of a gas. Alright, so I have about 65 miles to my destination. So let's see what this clock is gonna show us after I ride it on freeways for the next 65 miles. Airbag, yes. Mirrors, check. Like that would be better. Ready?
So you're just approaching the bike, and from one side you will see this radiator cover, belly pan, and it actually reminds you more about hyper naked class. Then you go to the front. And you got this rounded headlight. It's more like a cafe racer. Honda kinda tries to create the new segment, and we'll see if it's gonna be something new and if it's gonna be a thing in a few years. What's interesting for the 2020 model year that we're riding today and 2021 model year, there's no difference, no color change, nothing. Even the price tag stays the same. Well, the good news, in this base price, you will also get the ABS. It comes standard for this motorcycle. For the street setup, I'm sure the ABS is absolutely must. You know what's interesting? I actually done the review for the CB300R, so I knew exactly what to expect from the little brother. The main difference, and again, this is expectable, it's not so crazy when it comes to power, because CB1000 is rocking. The CB1000 is crazy in terms of torque and power. The power is right down below. You pull the throttle and you pull power wheelies. Obviously CB300 is not going to be that crazy, but I'm going to tell you today why I personally would pick the CB300 in comparison to CB1000. Let's talk about the engine. It is 286cc. It's got one cylinder, 4 valves, liquid cooled engine. It is definitely rider friendly. You see, it pulls really softly. You don't have any crazy throttle response, and the higher the RPMs, the more torque and power you get. So in other words, it's really friendly for a new rider. If you keep the higher RPMs, let's say like I'm doing right now, 7,000, I need to merge, you twist the throttle and it goes. What's interesting, it's not like a CB250 class. So it's not slow, but more than enough power to keep you engaged. And at the same time, you don't have any fancy traction control, power modes, or anything like that. And you don't need it. Despite my effort for the past months, I've been trying to ride this bike hard. I've been cruising on freeways, just riding occasionally to the grocery shop. And it's very well balanced. You know what I like? You don't need any fancy electronics to save you. You need the motorcycle that is gonna be perfectly balanced, and the amount of power would be totally enough to have fun and at the same time still keep it without any fancy electronics like traction controller or anything like that.
You always have to look for this balance. And I'm talking about the amount of power this engine can produce versus the tire and the chassis. How much this chassis and tire can handle. That's the perfect mix. You don't need electronics if those two gonna be matched. So I'm about to hit the freeway. It's gonna be really windy. It's gonna be hard to hear me. Let's do a quick montage where you're gonna see me riding for an hour straight on freeway, and I'm gonna tell you how I feel. Alright, we got some gas, we're staying hydrated, so it's a perfect time to keep going. So as you can tell, it's enough for the city, it's enough for the freeways. Even if you're gonna ride 70 miles an hour, this is not the red line. Yeah, it's pretty high in terms of RPMs when you're riding like 70, 75, but at the same time it can do that. It's enough power.
So let's summarize. For the daily freeway rides, if you're commuting, you probably want to go with something bigger. I would say the 400cc would be ideal, since the 300 is working a little bit too hard. Actually, I have to point it out, this is more like for California or Nevada riders, just because we get to ride on freeways a little bit faster. For example, when you get to Indiana or you get to Illinois, you get any other state where you have 55 miles an hour freeway, this won't be a problem at all. Just here in California, traffic averages 75 miles an hour, so it could be a little bit too far in terms of RPMs. So now we can easily talk about ergonomics, right? Since I just spent an hour on freeway, I can tell you it is comfortable. It's very relaxed in terms of your knees, in terms of your elbows, and after I spent more than an hour on freeway, I can tell you for sure it is doable. No, it's more than doable. There's something I don't like. For example, this seat. It's not the most plushy seat you get. It's on the firmer side. And yes, you can feel it after spending an hour without stopping. The handlebars on the other side, they kind of feel really close to you. So you can see my elbows really close to my body, and this actually creates a very straight posture, and that's something for the street setup that any rider would appreciate. Just for the reference, I'm 6'2", about 200 pounds. It's very relaxed in terms of my knees, it's very relaxed in terms of my hands, and again, I would change the seat, but this is just a personal preference. Something really interesting, when you're taking corners fast, you have so much space to slide on this seat back and forth, and that makes the corners easy. So you can kind of open up, drop your shoulder, look through the turn, and having this space on the seat, this bike will allow you to play with your body position, allow you to move around and understand better how you want to be seated. For example, when I move all the way back, I can easily lock my knee, and usually when you have smaller displacement, sometimes it could be a challenge to keep the knee under the tank. As you can tell, it's Nimble. Yep, it is. When it comes to the screen, you can tell the sunlight is right behind me, pointing straight at the dash, but it makes it even more visible. Same as I saw with the CB1000, this screen is small. Maybe first couple of rides it's gonna be hard to understand at what RPMs you're at, things like that. But when you get used to it, you know it. It's 4,000 here on the corner, 7,000 on the middle, and 10,000, that's exactly where you shift. I have one thing in mind. For a newer rider, I would add the gear indicator here, and I think it would be really helpful. But even though the dash is pretty small, I like it the way they design it. Let's talk about how it rides. It usually takes time before you start appreciating the smaller displacement, lightweight, something nimble, something like CB300. It's not the amount of cc's makes you a good rider. It's the way you can manage it and the way you can handle it. When you have all the brake fluids, coolant, when you have full tank of gas, this weighs 317 pounds. Think about it. This is a good number for a smaller bike. It runs on the 150/60/17 on the rear. And yes, Dunlop Sport Max tires are not the best in class. They are not dual compound or anything crazy like that, but this is a pretty good stock tire. This is the one that you can trust, and you can easily put 4,000 or 5,000 miles for the rear tire, and when you're gonna be ready to swap them, you'd be surprised to see every possible manufacturer offers something in this class. It feels even smaller than 250cc or something like that. So it's very easy to lane split, it's very easy to make a U-turn, especially on the twisty road, where you don't go fast, where you enjoy the ride, where you enjoy the scenery. This is more than enough power, very lightweight, very nimble, and a lot of fun. Let's talk about suspension. You have Showa front fork. It's not adjustable, but I think it's been designed for the rider around 180-200 pounds. The rear you can adjust the preload, and not much else you can do here. You know, this bike is really good when it comes to clutch and shifter. The clutch lever has really good feedback, really good response, and let's compare it, for example, with Kawasaki Ninja 400. There it's very whack, you don't feel this response. It is essentially not only about feel, it is also about maintenance price. Just because when it's too soft, you're most likely gonna wear your clutch disc pretty fast. What about brakes? Ready? 3, 2, 1, now! That's what I'm talking about. It's so easy to use those brakes with ABS, especially for the street setup, and the lever is really progressive. First 300-400 miles the rear brakes were even softer. Right now you kinda can tell when the ABS kicks in, but the front, you pull the lever and you get it. Progressively, slowly, really good feedback. I really do like the front brakes on this bike. Oh, that's my favorite corner. That's another one. Also, you can tell the slipper clutch works quite well. I don't need to pull clutch lever, and even if I'm going through the corner and I need to click it, I can do it without stressing the bike too much. Couple of things I would like them to improve. Like, for example, on the Kawasaki Ninja 400, we saw the new approach where you pull up the rear seat and you have a cable that will essentially allow you to take the front seat without looking for your toolbox and removing those two screws. I actually would love to see it here, and for me personally, switching between the motorcycles would be something really helpful. Well, I'm riding with airbag vest, and that's why you see the tape over the gas tank, and little minor things like that would make at least my life easier. So unfortunately, this seat is still mounted with two screws, and at the first look at the bike, I was completely positive this front and back seat is a one piece. So I don't know, if it's gonna be a problem for you, let me know in the comments down below. There is something else that I wanna show you. Alright, let me stop for a sec. I'm gonna be the boss for the next few minutes.
Look at this bike, right? What's the biggest, the most massive part about this motorcycle besides the gas tank? Right, the exhaust. I didn't see it this way until my neighbor approached me and said, what's the bike? Oh, it's a new bike? Yes, it's CB300R. He was like, why did they put such a big exhaust? This is the first impression of the person who saw the bike first time ever. So now I can't stress enough, but I see it the same way. Why did you put such a big exhaust on this bike? There is another problem I don't like about it. Look at this finish. It gets scratched all over the place, and this is from my motorcycle cover, where you have these plastic clips. So the plastic clip was just hanging next to the exhaust and the wind was blowing. Can you imagine to scrap it with your boot or something like that? Well, most likely this is gonna be your first part that you're gonna swap, because this engine, even with this exhaust, sounds great. At around 4,000 or 5,000 RPMs, when you drop the throttle, you get this kind of backfire, but it's very quiet. So I'm sure whatever exhaust you're gonna slam here, it's gonna sound way better, and it's gonna be way smaller. Well, since we talked about the exhaust, this bike is only 317 pounds, as you remember, so I guess I know how to drop 17 pounds and make it below 300, right? Just drop this giant exhaust. Well, when you need all the power, and it's probably somewhere after 7,000 RPMs, yeah, here you go, right around 8,000, you kind of feel that it's pulling. You kind of feel the engine is pulling, the engine is breathing.
You get a ton of vibrations, and Honda has this fancy feature that's supposed to reduce the vibration. But I'm telling you, 7,000-8,000 RPMs, 9,000, well, this thing vibrates a lot. You probably won't feel it through the handlebars unless you touch the weights or you lock your foot down, and you get a ton of vibration like in any single cylinder motorcycle through the foot pegs and through the end of the bar. So yeah, less vibrations, more comfortable seat. This is something that I would love to see fixed in the next generation.
Overall, that's the proof. Not every single hyper-naked motorcycle will look the same. In my view, Honda designed something that you will enjoy riding and looking at it. Yeah, I promise to answer some questions. As always, I'm giving you only honest and independent opinion. So, is it a good beginner's bike? If I would have long hair, this wind and that shot would be beautiful. Like a Titanic, you know. Alright, let's go back to the questions. Is it a good beginner's bike? Absolutely yes. It's very smooth, it's very fun to ride, and it's very rider friendly. Will it be a good commuter bike with 70 miles per hour speed limit in mind? Probably not. But in the smaller displacement like 250, 300, this Honda CB300 has something unique that you won't find elsewhere. It's got style and it's got comfort. And if this combination is something that you're looking for, you just found it. Still got any questions? Leave the comments down below. I will make sure to answer every single comment. And as always, I'll see you next week. Enjoy the ride. You know what else will make me even more happy? If you hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and copy the link for this video, share with your social media friends, and I'll see you next week.